Hey guys, today I'm going to talk about something that is really important to me and has really changed my life, and that is Jenkum.
There's a new way for your kids to get high. They're using raw sewage.
I couldn't imagine doing something like that. Sounds pretty sick to me.
Honestly, they need to find something better to do with their life. Seriously.
Something new, something stimulating, something different.
There's a lot of people that say it's a hoax or it's not real or it's just made up or whatever. Now let's just get this out of the way first, so you can laugh it all off or whatever, You won't be laughing once you experience what I have and have your life change. But, it's human waste. It's, shit.
Us last week.
Yeah.
Who I've known, I know her decently.
Oh yeah, I'm assuming so. It seems like a lot of people sort of they sort of travel in the same podcasting circles, and so like I'll have someone on, and then I'll be like, oh, they did like 4 of my friends' podcasts, and then I see like other people I have on have done their podcasts. It's like, oh man, the podcasting world is very, very small for sure. What I was gonna say, oh yeah, so I'm clearly battling, you can see on my face, I'm clearly battling a gluten allergy. I found out after this last bout of COVID, like for whatever reason, I was itchy all the time and I couldn't figure it out, and I was troubleshooting like different soaps. I was trying to think if it was my sheets, if I had started wearing some new fabric or something, and then I ate pizza one night and like the allergy symptoms just started kicking in right away, full hives, everything else, and so I found out that I'm now like I have a full-blown weed allergy, and I don't know if that's related to having COVID or if it's just, you can develop it later in life. And I thought, so I've been taking Allegra every day to just kind of deal with the symptoms and also avoiding gluten. And then I had like a burger one night and I was like, wow, I have no allergy symptoms. Like maybe the Allegra just blocks the reaction entirely. So then I decided the other day, I was like, I'll just make homemade Detroit style pizza, which is like thick crust pizza. And I was like, maybe I can just take an Allegra and I'll be fine. And I was not fine. It was literally like all of the symptoms of having a gluten allergy hit me at once. I broke out in hives. My hands swelled up. My lips swelled up. I was like, man, this is getting to the point now where like with pizza, I'm going to need an EpiPen, if I accidentally eat any, which was my all-time favorite food. So
I'm so sorry.
I haven't decided yet if I'm going to not eat it or if I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah, it's a tough choice, really. I feel that way about cheese. Like if ever I developed an allergy to cheese, I'd be like, well, I just might commit suicide.
Yeah, I think suicide at this point would be easier. I mean, the first week I was dealing with it, I was starting to look up all these places that do gluten-free stuff. And of course, like it is irony that I would develop a gluten allergy as much as I've shit on people with food allergies in my entire comedy career, where I'm just like, oh, you pussies, you can't eat it. And of course I would develop an allergy to my favorite food. I mean, that's sort of how you know that if there's a God out there, he's a real shithead. He was just like, here you go. What's your favorite thing? Boom. You're allergic to it. There you go. Enjoy shit talking for the rest of your life. Everything that you don't like, I'm going to make happen to you. Yeah, it was a weird thing to go through, and it's certainly ironic that that's the allergy I would come down with. I was like, you couldn't make me allergic to pussy? That I could avoid for a long period of time, right?
And then God might strike you down with it.
Yeah, exactly. But speaking of pussy allergies, OnlyFans. No, I'm kidding. Well, originally we planned to have you on to discuss the OnlyFans change in policy, and much like the news cycle these days, by the time we got to recording this episode, they changed it back. So like, what's the latest now from OnlyFans as far as creators go?
Well, I mean, they changed it back. They issued an email being like, LOL, psych, we are suspending the changes. We like diversity and inclusion. They also acknowledged sex workers for the first time. Apparently, they've never done that before. So we really don't know for sure what's going on, but that's generally the summary of what their public facing stuff has said.
Yeah, what's your real take on it? Because my real take was like, oh, we just realized that without you guys, we don't have a viable business at all. So
I think it's more than that. I think they know. I think they absolutely knew going in that this was going to be a clusterfuck. Like the guy who's running it, Leo, has been running sex work websites for decades.
Yeah.
And there's no way he didn't know that if they banned sex workers off of OnlyFans, there would be like the shitstorm to end all shitstorms. So I think there was other stuff going on.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? I like that you say that, because in a way I watched it and I thought, I kind of watched it unfold, and it only took about a week. And I remember I thought to myself yesterday when the change of direction came, or the reverse course, I guess. I remember thinking, man, if I were a CEO and I was trying to put public pressure on the financial industry to support my business and back my business, I would draw them into the political quagmire of rejecting sex work as a legitimate industry. And perhaps they were playing a little bit of 4D chess to say, okay, well, let's make this a social and safety issue for the general public. And that way, all of these creators start putting pressure on these financial institutions, and we don't have to argue with them in closed door meetings about the viability of our business or the moral integrity of our business. Because at the end of the day, the idea that financial institutions care about the morality of a business in order to make money is the most fucking ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Right. It's just as plausible. Like I tweeted out this exact theory. I'm not sure if you saw it, but yeah, I'm like,
no, I didn't.
Yeah, this I independently. I think you might be onto something here. I think that there's a good chance that there was some sort of 4D, or they're playing a game of chicken, basically. Like, fine, payment processors, watch us ban porn and like watch where the pressure turns. Though I'm not sure that people are always smart enough. Like, often stupid decisions come from people with like stupid like motivations. Like it could have been like a personal petty thing. But also from what I've heard, the thing that they want, OnlyFans wants, this is rumors from the grapevine, is to like get better deals with Visa and MasterCard, or to work directly with them and have lower fees taken, because right now they're paying like 7 to 10% in fees. Like 7 to 10% is going to payment processors right now.
Yeah, which is why they pass on an insane rake to creators. When they were recruiting me, and yes, they were, like a year ago. Yeah, they were recruiting me hard because they wanted to beef up their, no pun intended, they wanted to beef up their comedy division. You know, they were like, we don't just do sex work. And I was like, well, but I only want to come on if I can do sex work. And they were like, well, you know, it takes all kinds. So by all means, do what you want to do. But I ended up joining Locals because at the time when I was looking at the financials of OnlyFans, I was like, they take 20%. They take like an insane amount of money. And I assume a lot of that is because they have to pass that on to what you said. They're paying like 10% fees to payment processors.
Believe it or not, this is super low for sex workers. Like 20% is the lowest percentage I've seen a website take. When you compare, before this, the standard was 50%.
Yeah,
that's what we're used to.
Yeah, see, I'm comparing it to like Patreon and these other things where they take smaller percentages. But like historically, I think what was one of the first ones, Chat Roulette, and then I have a lot of friends who were doing like Cam Soda and Cam with Her, and those sites take half of your fucking money, and they own your content, which is insane to me.
Yep.
So you know, I said this on the episode with Candace last week, where I said, you know, if you're one of these like creepy porn producer guys or agents or managers or whatever, and this news came out that OnlyFans was basically gonna shut down the way they were doing business, those guys were probably like, yes, come back to me, my pretties. You know what I mean? Like
the creepy porn producers moved to OnlyFans. There's a huge amount of agencies. Yeah, they incorporated it. So there's agencies where you sign up with the agency handles your OnlyFans, and they take a percentage of the cut, like after OnlyFans takes their cut. So all of the agency guys were like also freaking out. They're like, oh shit, they're destroying our business.
They're like, our new business. So was OnlyFans your first rodeo, or how did you kind of get into this world? I mean, tell my viewers a little bit about, you know, your story of how you ended up being the go-to person to talk to about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. I grew up fundamentalist evangelical Christian. I was homeschooled and isolated from the outside world, and basically told I was going to be a housewife. So my world was very small. I didn't get an education. And after
that'll send you running to sex work, right? You're going to be a housewife. I'll fuck everybody. How dare you?
Right. Well, see, the thing is, like, in that world, I was down because, like, I didn't know anybody who wasn't also a fundamentalist evangelical Christian. So, like, I was like, all right, cool, I'm down with this housewife thing. But after I got out of the world and lost my faith, I was like, wait a fucking second. It actually took me a few years to go to sex work, but because I was trying to do like minimum wage jobs, it really sucked. So after a couple of years, I was like, actually, fuck this. Like, I don't want to live a life where I'm working 60-hour weeks out on an assembly line at a factory without windows, which is what I was doing. So somebody recommended I try camming, live webcamming, like you mentioned, on My Free Cams, which, by the way, is the site that Leo owned before OnlyFans.
Oh, okay.
And,
so
yeah. So I did that for some years.
You guys have history.
Yeah, I've actually met Leo at some My Free Cams parties back in Vegas back in the day. He's very nice. But I then eventually got into crypto. I worked at a crypto company, then quit that, and I became an in-person escort for a year and a half until COVID hit. And then I was like, well, I should probably jump on this OnlyFans train. And then I did very well. And then here we are today. I write about sex work and stuff. And so a couple people have written, I'm very well, like Business Insider wrote an article about me, which got a lot of views. And then after that, I've been doing the interview circuit.
Quite a bit. Yeah. Well, that's sort of how we found each other. When I had a guest cancel last week, trying to get people on to talk about this, I had like probably half a dozen people, jumping in my mentions like, you got to have her on. She's like the go-to about this.
Have me on?
Yeah.
Oh,
I had and so, it's funny because it's interesting how if you're like, if you're not really an expert on something and you sort of reach out into the internet and say like, get me somebody who's sort of an expert on this. It's amazing how quickly people respond and they go like, I know the experts. The other thing I was kind of excited to see is how many of my fans are balls deep in the world of OnlyFans, because boy, did they have suggestions. And I love it because it's sort of like this dirty secret that everybody has of how much they're into OnlyFans. But that you talk about sex work, and I love that you have done a number of different things in the category, because I think it's very interesting how sex work is like this weird channel of progressive thought that is often sort of left out of progressive discussions. And like, I've always had a very progressive view on it. Like, I've been pro legalized prostitution since I was 18. I kind of had to be. And otherwise I would have been a huge hypocrite. But I remember my experiences with prostitution very early on being not sort of the traditional like pimp hotel situation prostitution. It was all very digital. It was like women reaching out via social media and then sort of being very forthcoming about pricing and everything. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is actually not as terrifying or as scary when it's done this way. And the women are empowered to kind of do it themselves. And I definitely feel like there is this push by people that are pro sex work to get it independent, to get it safer. But yet you don't ever really see politicians or anyone talking about this ever, even the ones that claim to be the most progressive.
Oh, yeah. There's a huge pressure against the prostitution in the U.S. I mean, 61% of Americans think that porn is like wrong, like morally wrong.
Or
and
cheating.
31%. Huh?
I've heard that people think porn is cheating, which is this weird puritanical thing of like.
Yeah, so if porn is morally wrong, if almost 2/3 of Americans think that, like, of course prostitution is going to do way worse. People view it as victimized. There's the sex trafficking hysteria. Women can't possibly consent. Their conception of like sex workers or people who are victimized and on the street. There's not really this public awareness of like women like me who, put up like a website and like manage it like a business. Like, I hired an assistant to answer my emails and do scheduling for me. Like, we have like screening methods. It's very practical. And this is like what the majority of people are doing now, like people who are doing escort work.
Well, and I think it really kicks the door open on equality too, because when you talk about you know, like the idea of the gender pay gap, this to me would knock that out of the fucking conversation for good, because you know, it's really the ultimate game changer for women, because this is a business that essentially you can set up shop very easily with minimal cost up front, and the returns are insane. I mean, it's interesting because in this time of OnlyFans, we've seen like a socioeconomic shift where there are women who are under the age of 25 who are buying homes for themselves because of what they've made on OnlyFans. And so in a weird way, even though historically speaking, in the marketing sense, women have made 72% of the purchasing decisions in households, you're seeing this shift to now where it's almost like under the age of 30, 70+% of the consumerism is going to be done by women. And so you're really seeing sort of a financial shift in wealth and who's becoming bigger players in the finance world. And you brought up crypto earlier. I actually have to go to women now, which sounds super sexist to say it like it's crazy. But if I have questions about crypto, I'm reaching out to a woman who does OnlyFans or something else, because chances are they're far more financially astute and in tune than my comedian friends or actor friends or athlete friends even. So, you know, we're entering a time where like, you know, women who have OnlyFans are going to have this side business of being financial advisors because they're making a ton of money and learning through trial and error of how to best invest and how to best sort of spend and save your money.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, a lot of women aren't making a ton of money on OnlyFans. Like the top 1% is about, I think, $10,000 a month, and the top 10%.
But they're the ones who look like me, and that's clearly the reason. So
yeah, that's fair.
It is weird how like you kind of go back into. In one of the very first podcast episodes I did of my other show, the one that predated this one, we talked about OnlyFans, and there, I think it was like the Business Insider, the Wall Street Journal had done a article about it, and they talked to a girl who was only making like $1,000 a month, and I go, yeah, because you're just sort of like dancing around your apartment in a sheet. Like there's a chick on OnlyFans at this very moment who's getting fucked by 2 dudes at the same time. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't go backwards in porn. Like you just can't, you cannot go backwards, and you're making $900 a month because you're being a little bit of a prude.
You know, to be fair, I think it's more the narrative that you sell that makes the money. Some prudes make an insane amount of money on OnlyFans. You just have to like know how to like sell yourself with like a high amount of value.
I have a feeling that these OnlyFans discussion podcasts are going to lead to me doing OnlyFans and figuring it out and finding a way to be it. Figuring out I have an account already. My name on OnlyFans is John Beignet Ramsey, which I thought was hilarious. And it's funny because like one of the things I discovered after hosting a show for the Food Network for 3 seasons is that to like straight women, I'm like a 6 or a 7 maybe, and that's just because I have a good face when it's not busted out from gluten. To gay men, I am a 43. And so the amount of like sexually forward and explicit DMs I get from gay men in my inbox has me very much considering, like, I wonder how much money I could make on OnlyFans, just like cooking naked or doing ridiculous things. And it's like, in my mind, ridiculous because I could never view myself as sexually appealing to anyone, which is just absurd. But everyone I've talked to is like, you'd be fucking surprised what people like.
Yeah, it's true. Dude, I'm doing interviews on obscure fetishes right now, and the amount of like very specific things that people like is really mind-blowing and kind of exciting. I like the variety.
I have some very specific ones that I didn't realize. And it's funny because I feel like my tastes have gone almost backwards, where I feel like as more things have become accessible and available through the internet, what I'm into has become far more tame than I feel like where porn is trending, right? So like I like things that are more like pleasure delayment and teasing and stuff like that is not like super hardcore, super aggressive. So it is kind of weird how like people react differently to having options, right? Some people's tastes get more aggressive or violent. And then other, for me, as an example, my taste went back the other way, where it's almost like, oh, let me see less, or let me wait a little bit, or you know what I mean? So it is kind of interesting how our brains react to those things differently, depending on, like the idea of how somebody acquires or discovers what they're into. That's always sort of been a fascinating journey to me.
Yeah, most of the people I've talked to, I think almost all of them have reported they don't know where it came from. It happened in sometime early childhood. They just remember being fascinated by it as a child with like a specific unusual thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting how sort of the things we see, and this kind of lends to my idea that so much of who we are as people is probably more about like nurture and our experiences when we're young than perhaps merely biology. It's probably a blend. But it's so funny that the physical, I was able to trace the physical traits that I'm into. I actually was able to trace back to one of the first women in a movie that I was attracted to as a kid. So as like, I've always liked certain traits on women, like curly frizzy hair, and I don't like women with long fingernails or fake fingernails. And so they sort of present like in a way almost like exotic and a little bit masculine. And I was like, I wonder why I'm into that. I wonder where that's from. And then I went back and watched the original Batman, which was 1989. I was 6 years old, and I remember being in love with Vicky Vale, with Kim Basinger, and I was like, oh my God, that's her. Like that. So then you question, like, does what I'm attracted to go all the way back to watching Batman when I was 6 years old? And so it does kind of get your wheels going as to like, wow, that's so strange that like the first, almost like the first time I had any sort of sexual proclivity to a woman, that preference stays embedded in your mind all the way through adulthood. And that and I don't know if that's medically true or psychologically true, but that's just sort of coincidentally something I noticed. And I was like, oh my God, this is so weird that like what I'm into goes all the way back to like the very first movie I watched as a kid.
Yeah, and it's unclear which way the causality goes. Like, if it was just genetically baked into your brain that this is the kind of thing you like, then like at 6 years old, you would be like pretty attracted to people who fit that sort of thing. But I suspect a lot of it is genetic.
Yeah, and I guess, and the other thing I would guess is the willingness to experiment is probably a big part of what shapes us as well. Did you feel like coming out of a very conservative upbringing that you were hesitant to kind of dive into experimentation, or did you find that in almost like a rebellious sense that you were sort of drawn to it, of like, let me go waterboard myself with everything that life has to offer?
I haven't actually tried waterboarding yet, believe it or not. But
ooh, okay. See, I found a thing. Let's start a new category of
it's not
waterboarding pornography. Okay, well, you're probably right.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan now, they're like, what? They're like, we only have waterboard pornography. What are you talking about?
Well, that's my specialty.
Yeah, I do mostly squirter waterboarding videos. Are you familiar with this subgenre? I think I found what I'm going to do on OnlyFans. That's for sure.
I would pay to watch that just for the sheer novelty.
Yeah. Also, I don't even know. First of all, if a guy has enough cum to waterboard somebody with it, good for him. Jesus Christ. How much would that take? All of it? I don't think if you accumulated all of it I've had in my life, I'd have enough to dump a cup on somebody's head, let alone waterboard them. Jesus.
Well, it'll take a team. We'll have to get a group effort going.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the answer in porn. Maybe we need more people. That's always the solution. I think we might need a couple more people. You know what this shoot needs is a few more dicks. That's never the approach in any other industry. There's never like chefs trying to figure out a dish and they're like, maybe if we bring in 5 more chefs and let them play around with it, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I wonder what that is. Like, why do people want like more dicks or like more women? And people have such specific preferences about which ones. Like, some people are like, we have to have a bunch of dudes banging a single woman, or vice versa. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's I've always said people are like, oh yeah, the idea my idea is 2 women, and I'm like, why? So I can worry about both of them being disappointed? Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a hacky thing, but it's like I have a hard enough time getting 1 woman excited, let 2. You know, and in this day and age, I can't imagine, like, one of them's definitely going to start texting. I could promise you that.
It's true. I used to have a ton of group sex when I was younger, and now I'm like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, obviously, if you're raised, evangelical Christian, that's like part of it, right? That's like the 3rd year of primary school.
You mean inside of the evangelical? Well, we weren't the Mormons. Those people are.
No judgment, Mormons.
FLDS.
We were talking earlier about, people's sort of public aversion to the idea of participating in sex work or pornography, and yet so many people are consuming it. So nowhere near the number of people that sort of are publicly in favor of it. Does that number tie into the amount of people that consume it? My point is there are so many more people watching it and participating in it than you would ever be led to believe by who sort of publicly supports it.
Yeah, I know all these lawmakers who are like pursuing porn stuff. It's like, you watch porn. I don't believe you don't watch porn. Maybe you feel shame about it and like close all your tabs frantically afterwards, but you still do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. It's so funny. I used to tell this as a bit on stage about how I would always wear headphones when I would watch porno, like, because I guess the assumption is that if neighbors could hear me, they would just automatically know it's porn and not that I was cool. Are you there? You keep cutting out.
I just changed my I changed the network I was connected to, so hopefully this will.
Oh, okay.
This will be better. Sorry.
Let's hope. So sorry about that. No, that's okay. Let's cut this 5. I'm just making timestamp notes so I know where I can cut out all this tech problem stuff. But you were talking about, you said, thank God I'm not, at least I'm not Mormon. Do you, how, which I think we all can relate to that sort of sentiment. Are there a lot of Mormons in the world of sex work and OnlyFans now? I mean, aside from their polygamy?
I don't think so. Not a lot. Not a lot of people get out. There's not a lot of like fundamentalist evangelical Christians either.
Yeah,
I mean, there's not a lot of them to begin with.
Yeah, that's interesting too. And usually I'm assuming it's because there's already plenty of sex work to do inside the community.
Presumably. I definitely got religious people. I have a friend, a dominatrix, who works in New York City. Her specialty is pooping in people's mouths. And she reports that almost all her clients are Orthodox Jews.
Wait a minute. So you're... Hold on a second. You just blew my fucking mind. So you have a friend who's a dominatrix I like how you just skimmed over that her thing is shitting in people's mouths so that you can get to like her primary client base is Orthodox Jews. Oh my God, that's insane. Those people are always trying to find diamonds in everything. Am I right? Oh, it's so horrible. That's insane to me. Really, that's an interesting. And there you go. Like, so now thanks to you, I'm never going to be able to walk through the Diamond District of New York without being like, all these people get their mouths shit in. I don't know if you know that about them, but.
I mean, probably a lot of other people get their mouths shit in too, but for some reason it's just in that specific area.
Listen, I know I call this podcast Jenkum because it's supposed to be all about us talking shit, but I did not think we were going to get this literal. I just find out that like 90% of my viewership is like Orthodox Jews, and they're like, when is it going to happen? When is the shitting beginning?
I mean, to be fair, God. I feel very lucky I did not get born with a poop fetish. Like, it must suck to like be like the thing that you're into will like screw up your digestive system. And also everybody thinks you're weird. Like, they didn't choose that. They didn't like wake up one day and they're like, you know what would be great? It's having a poop fetish. Like, no, they just got saddled with it. And so I feel like kind of compassionate for them.
Is there anything out? You seem super open-minded. Is there anything out there that's like too gross for even where you're just like, I don't even want to think about that?
I don't think so.
Wow.
I'm pretty extreme.
Well, I see that. You're just like, yeah, the poop thing. That's like a 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that always got me was like animal dicks. Like, Jesus Christ, you saw human dicks and were like, I gotta go bigger.
It's probably the taboo. Bestiality is actually like relatively common among the obscure fetishes. I actually haven't interviewed a bestiality person yet, but it's on the schedule.
Well, give me 15 and I'll come back. I think one of my new neighbors got a dog, so I'll be back in 10. I'll let you know what it's all about.
Did you know there used to be a Wikipedia article that was specifically about men having sex with goats throughout history, and then they took it down? It was one of my favorite Wikipedia articles of all time, talking about just the relationship of men and goats.
Is that
and for some reason, they were like, this must be irrelevant to Wikipedia or like not important enough.
Is that movie Men Who Stare at Goats? Is that what that's about?
A lot of similar words, but I think they're staring at them, and I'm referring to the putting their dick inside their.
Well, there's usually a stare down before somebody fucks somebody. Isn't that how it works in your world?
Is that what you do? Do you just like?
I like to stare a woman in the eyes until she breaks, and then I try to have sex with her.
Oh, okay. Is this like a pickup artistry thing?
No. Oh God, is there anything more gross than that subculture of dudes like who are like, listen, I've hacked what it is. Yeah, here's
people's mouth is probably a little more gross.
Yeah, it's a little. I don't know though. Honestly, if you told me that I could go to a seminar where a man tries to tell me how to fuck women for an hour, or someone could just shit in my mouth, I'm gonna go with the mouth shitting. To be honest with you, because.
I'm kind of pro PUA, believe it or not. I went on this date once when I was younger, and I woke up the next morning in the guy's bed, and I was like, how did you get me to sleep with you? And then he handed me a book, and then I became obsessed with studying pickup artistry techniques because it had worked so well on me. Yeah. And so I have a complicated relationship with it, but I have like a lot of, I don't know, like it's just guys who want to get laid, man. I sympathize with that. I
guess. I mean, I don't know. I maybe some of it is because I'm so much older now. Like I just turned 38 a week ago. And so for me, it's like the amount of effort that goes into, trying to trick somebody into sleeping with you is so much more work than just being yourself and seeing how that goes.
Or paying them.
Yeah, or just paying them. Well, I went through that. I did that when I was very young. And I was like I worked a lot. I had like a corporate job at a very young age where I was traveling all the time. And so I just didn't have the opportunity to like really date. And this was sort of like, I graduated high school in 2001 and I started traveling and doing work stuff between like 2003 and 2006. So that was really even before the internet had kind of hit its stride. Like MySpace was barely a thing at that point. There was no Facebook. There was none of the adult kind of stuff that exists today. I mean, your porn outlets back then were like websites that were $30 to $60 a month or something like that. And there was absolutely no interfacing between you and the people that you're consuming content from. So, naturally, like my first trip to Vegas, I was like, let me see what this prostitution shit's about. And the thing that was like crazy to me was just like what a normal. Interestingly enough, the girl looked almost exactly like you, which is kind of funny and creepy. But no, she was like a girl next door type from like the Midwest. At least that was her story. And but no, it wasn't like it wasn't like the Julia Roberts Pretty Woman experience. It was very much like, oh, this seems like a normal chick, and so that kind of destigmatized it for me. And then it just got to a point where she was like, okay, here's what it costs. And I was just like, oh, I'm definitely paying that. Like, I'm not going to get this far and not. And then also this makes the story better. So absolutely. Right. And, so yeah, and I just sort of like fell into that, but it wasn't like a thing that I continued to go through. And then I was a regular guest on another guy's podcast many years ago, and we had it's like weird with guys who aren't very well versed in that. If you're somebody who's been to a prostitute one time, you become the expert. And so we had a guest visiting from Canada, and he's like, I've never been with a prostitute. Josh, you know the whole shebang, so let's set it up. And I was just like, I don't know, man, let's just go on Backpage. And this was a whole different situation because this was, it was either like NBA All-Star Weekend or the Super Bowl or something going on in LA. And so like there were all these postings on Backpage, and we found a posting, and he called her, and then we drove to the location, which was it was like a hotel in the valley, and they had security at both ends of the back of this hotel, and they had the entire back of the hotel rented out basically as a traveling whorehouse for NFL or whatever the weekend was. And literally they had like dudes with earpiece. It was like a very sophisticated operation. And literally they had, so like the security guard would come to your car, find out who you're there to see. They would radio into that room and verify that you had an appointment with the girl in that room, and then they would give you the room number and send you to the room.
That's so crazy.
It was wild. And so me and the other podcaster sat in the car while this dude, he was like 20, probably 25 or younger, while he went into this like for his first prostitute experience. And he was in there for like 90 seconds, it felt like, maybe like maybe 5 minutes. And he was like, yeah, man, like she literally was just like, here's what it costs. Get naked. Let's do this. And then sent me on my fucking way. And I was like, damn, it was like assembly line prostitution.
A drive-through.
Yeah, it was like a drive-through. It was like a drive-through whorehouse. It was at the back of a La Quinta Inn. I think off of like Coldwater Canyon or something like that. But it was like, I remember watching it be like, this was not my experience at all. I was like, I pretty much had the Pretty Woman experience compared to this. This is like, this is like a whole other level to it. And it wasn't like they were like haggard crack whores. They were like super sexy, like 22-year-old Mexican chicks. And so I was like, man, this is, I was like, I had like this Vice TV mentality. I was like, I want to get a documentary film crew and follow these people around and probably eventually get beheaded somewhere down in Mexico.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, those were the days, right? Those were the Backpage days.
Yeah. And then of course, one person, he called it when he called, we videoed this entire experience, by the way. But when he called them, he called it Back Package. He was like, I found your posting on Back Package. And then we never didn't call it Back Package from that point forward. Package. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm going to go on that Back Package myself and see what I can find. But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. It's like I'm talking about going from a time. I mean, you think about the technological progression we've made from like 2003 till now. It's like in 2006 when I slept with a prostitute for the first time, or it was 2005 actually. 2005, the first time I slept with a prostitute, MySpace was barely a thing. Then you fast forward all the way through this time. You go through Backpage, you go through all the different campsites. Now we're at OnlyFans. I mean, what do you think is next down the pike? Like, what's the next evolution in the world of sort of sex work entrepreneurship?
Well, I hope we're seeing more normalization. It's hitting like more individual people, and it's becoming more accepted. I think we're like on the path to decriminalization of in-person sex work, which would be fantastic. There's a lot of websites desperately trying to compete with OnlyFans right now. Just like a bunch of vultures just ready to like pick up any sort of the scraps of the OnlyFans value. So I think we're going to see a big explosion in the subscription space. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a pretty solid OnlyFans competitor arise over the next few years.
Yeah, I think so. I do believe that was a big part of maybe part of the strategy behind their move recently as well, to be like, let's make sure that, we stave off competitors by sort of shooting this scare thing across the bow and making sure our current investors and banking partners realize that a lot of money is going to go away if they don't up their commitment to us. And so, I go back to what we said in the beginning. I think there was a lot more strategy to that announcement and the way it was sort of done. And the interesting thing is they went to the press first and then communicated to their creators second, which always means that it's done for the purposes of publicity, not for the purposes of a true policy change, right?
Well, OnlyFans has historically not been great with communicating with its creators either. Like support is not given good info. People will be like, hey, I messaged support and they told me this thing. And then I messaged support and they told me a completely opposite thing. So I was not surprised that people were getting messages from support being like, what are you talking about? But they did confirm it, I think, the next day in an email to all the creators.
Why do you think OnlyFans has exploded in a way that other porn hasn't? I have a theory, but I'd love to get your opinion before I...
There's a couple factors, I think. One is that like OnlyFans did a different thing with like the social technology than any other website has before, which is it isolated the men from each other. I don't think this is the only factor, but I think it's a really big one. On other websites where you interact with the performer, you are not isolated from other men. You develop a community with other men. Like there's a group chat that you can see. Everybody participates and competes over the same women, like kind of collectively. But with OnlyFans, it's the first time that they were really like, okay, we're going to actually put you on your own little stall, facing the creator directly. And it feels like you have this individual personalized connection, which decreases the need for competition. Basically, these men are no longer competing with each other, which means that you get fewer whales, but also you get a bunch of guys who otherwise wouldn't have paid because they're like, well, my $5 isn't going to matter because this other guy's paying $500. They don't have that psychological move anymore. They're like, oh, my $5 matters. Like I get a clear, direct thing from this woman, and there's no other guys sort of like marking their territory around me. And I think this is the first time that we've seen sort of a setup like this in the space, in the sex work space ever. And of course, there's pandemic stuff going on as well. And also it takes 20%. So, I mean, there's other factors. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is I never really thought of that. And I don't think I can because I'm a dude. Like that's why I'm glad I let you answer before I said mine, because that's a very insightful point of view. I think you're right. I never ever once, but I will tell you this. One of the reasons I never participated in other porn sites was because of the collectivism. Like I was like, I always would go on videos and be like, who the fuck is commenting on these videos? Like, ew, dude. And then there are dudes in the comments like, yo, at timestamp 317, this weird Korean chick walks into the back of the frame. Who's she and where can I find her? And then 2 comments later, another guy's like, you don't know who she is? Here's all her shit. Here's her bio and everything. And you're like, yeah. This world of like diehard pornography fans is not my scene at all. So yeah, it's like this weird thing of like, I don't want other people knowing what it is a little more discreet, I think, with OnlyFans. The thing that I will tell you from a guy's perspective that I think makes OnlyFans so much more of a desirable way to interact with pornography is that I have the opportunity to find something from someone I already know in the world, which is kind of weird, right? Like not a lot of people go through the experience of someone they know personally getting into the world of adult films or into sex work of any kind, and then sort of being able to see that transition. But there is nothing more appealing to me about the world of OnlyFans than being like, oh my God, that girl checks groceries across the street from my apartment and she's into some hardcore crazy shit I would have never fucking guessed. I think some of the appeal is like this idea that you're getting to see the sexual side of people that you otherwise never would have seen, right? Unless you participated with that person directly. But it sort of removes that fourth wall of pornography of like, this is a porn person to like, and I think this is why amateur stuff has long been popular. I think it kind of takes the core of what people are interested in about amateur pornography and then pours gas on it, where it's like, oh my God, this is a chick I used to see at auditions, or this is a girl who was an open micer in a city I lived in 10 years ago. And now I'm watching her do shit I never would have imagined. I think there's an element of like getting to see something that you didn't even know was out there from somebody that you know. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do you watch girls you know on OnlyFans? Yeah, a couple that I've known. Like if I see they have one, I'm like, ooh, I have to see what it is. Like I have to see what they're doing, right? And it's almost like getting to read somebody's diary in a weird way. That's what it feels like. And so even if they'll declare like I'm not doing sex work or anything on there, you do know that there's sort of an intimacy to what they're putting on that site that you're not going to get anywhere else. And so even if you go on in there, listen, the only thing that would gross me out is if they're singing. But other than that, it is kind of this weird peek into, oh my God, like, let me go see what they're doing, or let me see this other side of this person that I would never otherwise get to see. And so it is like, in a weird way, I don't pay to necessarily be sexually satisfied. I will join their thing because I just have this curiosity. I have to see this other part of them that I otherwise might not ever see, if that makes sense.
Right. And even when this doesn't like apply individually, like I think it's still scalable. Like even if you don't personally like know the girls, like was in your class or something, like a lot of girls will sort of like push this thing, like I could be the girl in your class. Like OnlyFans sort of as a brand is something like all the girls participating are the girl next door. Like you could run into her on the street.
Right.
So like you only know like a few girls in your life or a certain amount. Whereas like the
I would say too many. I'd say more than I care to. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it's like exactly this philosophy, and it's just like it's extended. It really is pushed. Like for example, this is why I'm pretty like high profile in regards to like podcasts. Like I'm presenting myself as like a normal human being, which I am, by the way. And you can see me in like a really non-sexual context. But like now there's probably a curiosity spark. Like, wow, I could see like Aella lose her mind somewhere, which is fine if you want to. And
well, I will tell you, it's like, it is weird because there are some people that I wouldn't want to see that from. And then there are some people where I have to scratch the itch. It's so strange that way. But yeah, I do sort of have a weird puritanical line though, where if I know someone too well, like I wouldn't want to see it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I don't want to. Yeah, where I'm just like, no, like, and also there is a little part of me that's like the ignorance is bliss, meaning like I really like this person. I think they're really nice. I don't want to know that they like to have their mouth shit into. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, where am I going to get my jewelry? No, so yeah, it is kind of a thing of like, and also that fear, I think, is rationalized by the fact that like somebody will promote on Facebook, somebody that I'm like Facebook friends with. Or mutually follow each other on Instagram. And a lot of the people that I mutually follow are from the food world, like food space. They're people that have like YouTube channels or whatever. And enough of them have posted like, I'm doing OnlyFans now. And you're like, wait a minute.
Really?
This person seems very conservative. Let me see what they're into. And then literally you go there and it's like gaping and throat fucking. And you're like, oh, we just went 0 to 100. And then I'm like, oh, I can never, like, again, you can't go backwards. And so there are some people where I'm like, I want to continue to think of this person in this light, and I don't want to see that other side. I don't want to see how far down the rabbit hole that goes. So it is kind of weird of like,
yeah, it's true. I know one person who does the kind of porn that I really like, the niche porn that I'm very into, and I just can't watch their porn.
Is it shitting?
I can't. No, it's not shitting.
Okay, good.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Yeah, if you're like, that's my thing too. Like, so when you said you grew up
diarrhea.
When you grew up and you said you were in a cult, did you meant Judaism?
But my friend does the great porn, but like I can't watch it because it's like it's just her, you know. And I'm like, I feel like weird becoming like really aroused to like watching like her. Somebody who I know in real life.
Yeah, but that also can be kind of an interesting thing. Like I think part of my view about this is going to get a little deep, but part of my view about what makes somebody sexy is I think shaped by how much I've been surprised my entire life. And so I'm somebody who really rails against when people go like, well, I have a certain type. And I go, you don't fucking know what your type is, because unless you've experienced everything, none of us really know the limits of what we like or what we're into. But I have had so many situations with people that like originally I thought, even my girlfriend now of almost a decade, like when I met her, I was like, I'm going to fucking hate this chick. Like, and I put everything that I presumed about her on her. And then she turned out to be none of those things. And then, you know, so it's so interesting to me that so many times in my life, what I thought somebody was not who they were. And having the willingness to let people surprise you, I think is one of the last beautiful things we have left in existence. And so that is the kind of the magic of it to me, of like, wow, this is a way that people can still surprise you. but you don't want it to give you nightmares.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do think that is kind of a sort of a blessing of this thing, as long as you sort of have the perspective to appreciate that, to appreciate like, wow, I'm getting to see this side of a person that I wouldn't have been able to see. It just wasn't possible 20 years ago or 30 years ago. And there's a lot of vulnerability in people showing themselves that way. That's why the thing I hate the most are like the guys who try to like neg women in comments. I'm just like, ugh, I hate that. Like, and I know that's a thing. Like for some men, they want to talk to women like they're absolute trash and shit. But I'm just like, that is the grossest part of porn to me. Like I have a friend.
They're just mad. They're mad when they're horny. They're like, man, I'm horny. I want this woman. She has power over me because I want her. Like I have to reclaim some power by like telling her that she sucks. That way, like I feel like I have like the judgment, like the authority to make judgment about her. I
wonder if that's why people troll me too. I wonder if it's because I have power over them and I'm not letting them come enough.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think really you should post more to your OnlyFans, and they might. I get. You're probably right. I should probably let these guys come on me a little bit more, and maybe they'll be nicer in the comments. Waterboard it.
Yeah, you guys just waterboarded me with a little bit of semen. Listen, it'll take all of my. It won't be my OnlyFans. It'll be all of my fans. It will take all of my fans for one waterboarding. I promise you. Unless I got some secret fire hose guy in there who's just got cum for days. What the fuck are we even talking about?
Fire hoses of cum is what we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've never seen that scene in like a 9/11 movie where there's, oh no, the trucks don't reach, and this guy just stand back and show me some titties. That's never been. That sounds like something you'd see in an Adam Sandler movie. Like, yeah,
I think a nice superhero.
Yeah, guy who you could just come on it. By the way, the only thing you could probably do with that is put out fires. Like, what else are you gonna do? What else are you gonna do with your fire hose of cum?
Bank on OnlyFans though. Put out fires and make money on OnlyFans.
Yeah, guy who puts out fire. Yeah, find me that account. I want to find a guy who fights fires with his jizz.
Ugh.
That's what an unfortunate rescue, by the way. Imagine being in that burning building. You'd be like, ugh, could you just let me die? This is somehow worse. Yeah. I gotta go. This is on the news, man. People from my work are gonna see this.
Oh man, it's making me feel. I don't usually feel this strange during podcasts.
You don't?
No, I don't. I don't think I've ever had to deal with the vivid image of getting rescued from a fire by a man's semen before. So thank you.
Yeah, well.
Really broadening my range of experience.
Yeah, there you go. It's amazing that we're in a domain where I've been able to creep you out with my imagination.
I'm impressed.
Isn't that fun? And I have all my clothes on and you're uncomfortable. Isn't that great?
Well done.
Yeah, well, I'm a pro. This is what I do for a living. Use crazy imagery to make you're laughing, so that's good. I don't care if it's a nervous laugh. So I guess before we move into like the bonus portion where we'll ask you some fun questions, and something tells me you're going to be one of the best ones for this because you're pretty open with some wild shit. So no pun intended. That's what we do on Jenkum. We talk shit. Before we get out of here, where can people support you? Obviously, I want people to go check out your writing and some of the other podcasts you're doing. Where can people check your stuff out?
My website is Knowing Less, like KNOW, knowingless.com. And my Twitter is Aella_girl. The underscore is very important. Otherwise, you'll get my porn. And my name is spelled AELLA, Aella_girl. Yeah, and then that should take you to everything if you just click through.
People can check you out and follow all your stuff. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. For people that are watching this episode, you can catch full episodes, ad-free and unedited on my locals page, as well as this upcoming bonus portion of the show called Talking Shit. Where we get to know our guests on a more intimate level. Although I don't even know if that's possible with you at this point. I think we've breached the divide.
Yeah, we're pretty far down by this point.
We're all the way in. This is sixth base, I think. Once you start talking about putting out fires with men's ejaculate, I think you've blown through home plate. And also, if you want to check this podcast out, please go on all podcast platforms. That's where we are. You can rate, comment, and subscribe. But the bonus portion is only available on Locals. You can find that at joshdenny.locals.com. Use promo code Jenkum for your first month free.